are coming at you again with another math lesson. Today we are going to be moving on to topic 14-2, which is all about the customary units of capacity. And capacity is the amount of space within an object that something takes up. So I remember we were in class, a big hint that I was giving you guys for this was if your sound's on, you've got your hint going right there. I'm swishing around my hydro flask. We want to think of liquids usually when talking about capacity. However, you can also measure things when cooking and baking using capacity. Any of those measuring cups that you would have at home would also be talking about capacity. So let's dive on in today. We are going to be talking about all of the different units of capacity, visualizing what they are, and then going over a few example problems. So our words to know, sorry, I just want to do a volume check. Our words to know, we have a cup. This is exactly what I was talking about, something that you would use for baking. I just used this morning when I was making some pancakes. We have our pint, we have our quart, and we have our gallon. Now, if we were going to, there's only 4 shown here, but there are actually 5 customary units of capacity that we use here in the United States. The smallest unit is not listed here. If you can remember what that is, think about it for a second. If you're remembering fluid ounces, then you are correct, okay? So in order from least to greatest, the units of capacity are fluid ounces, then cups, then pints, quarts, and the largest unit for capacity is going to be gallons.
How do you measure capacity in customary units? Think about this question during the lesson. Capacity is volume of a container in liquid units. Here are some customary units for measuring capacity. 1 cup, 1 pint, 1 quart, and 1 gallon. Look at the units for measuring capacity. Can you give some examples of things you can measure using a cup, a pint, a quart, and a gallon?
Okay, so they want us to come up with some examples of things that we can measure using a cup, a pint, a quart, and a gallon. Now remember, when we are talking about units of measurement, we don't just want to think about something that would be the exact same unit as that. We want to think what we could use to measure something. So for example of that, if I had a coffee mug, a regular coffee cup, teacup, hot chocolate mug, we're all visualizing a mug. What would the most appropriate unit to measure the capacity of that mug be? Do we think it would be the smallest unit, fluid ounces? 1 cup to measure the capacity? 1 pint, 1 quart, or 1 gallon. Now remember, when we're talking about something that's appropriate, we want to go with a smaller unit to be able to figure out what that capacity or that volume is. So if I'm talking about a regular coffee mug, I would want to measure that with fluid ounces, not cups.
Here are some examples of things you can measure with the customary units for capacity. Cup, sugar in a recipe. Pint, a large glass of milk. Quart, a carton of juice. Gallons, a tub of water. How much water can a kitchen sink hold? Let's find out.
Okay, so this kitchen sink in this picture here does not look that large. I want you guys to visualize our sink in our classroom. And I know it's been a long time since we have seen that sink, but it is a really nice, big, wide, deep sink. We could fit a lot of things in that sink. It has a pretty big capacity, if I do say so myself. So, which one of these units do you think would be most appropriate to measure the capacity of our classroom sink? Cups, pints, quarts, or gallons? If you said gallons, you are absolutely correct.
First, you must choose Why do you need to choose an appropriate unit to measure objects?
Now, why did we pick gallons as the most appropriate unit? Well, the reasoning for that is it's going to take us less gallons to fill the capacity of the sink. If I was trying to fill the sink with water all the way up to the top, if I was using a small unit like cups, it would take me a lot more cups. A lot more times of running and filling it up and dumping it in than it would gallons. Remember, we want to go with accurate and efficient.
You want to measure in units that make sense. For smaller objects, you will use smaller units. For larger objects, you will use larger units. Would it make sense to use? No, it would not make sense. It would take too long to fill the kitchen sink using a cup, pint, or quart. The best unit to use
Yes,
would
we
be.
know.
Now that you have chosen the appropriate unit to measure, estimate to see how many gallons of water it would take to fill the kitchen sink.
Okay, now this is a really hard visualization, guys. So I don't even want y'all to necessarily try. If you want to try, by all means, please do. But just the way that they have this picture shown here and the size of this sink, it's really hard to imagine dumping it out because you don't have that real life reference, okay?
Think about a gallon size. What is something you buy from the store that is measured in
So
gallons?
some things that I know that I buy from the store that we can purchase in gallon form would be gallons of water, gallons of milk, and just like you have right here, a gallon of juice.
At the store, many people buy milk in 1 gallon. Visualize how many gallons of water it would take to fill the kitchen sink.
Okay, so let's try. Let's use our imaginations like SpongeBob and try our best to figure this out. So, if I look at this and I imagine dumping it in, I definitely think it's going to be more than 1 gallon. 1 gallon would probably bring me up to about here. So if 1 gallon would bring me up to about here, 2 gallons would bring me to this level, 3 gallons, 4 gallons. Let's see.
A good estimate for the capacity of a kitchen sink is about 4 gallons.
Well, we got lucky on that one, y'all.
Now you can measure. What is one way to measure the amount of water that can fill the kitchen sink?
Okay, so how could we go about measuring this? Let's say I gave you guys an empty gallon container and I said to you, tell me how many gallons can fit in our sink? What is the capacity of our sink in gallons? What could you do to figure that out?
You can fill a 1 gallon jug with water and pour it in the sink. Do this until the sink is full. Then count how many 1 gallon jugs were used to fill the sink. How many 1 gallon jugs were used to fill the sink?
5. There were 5 actual, 4 was a good estimate.
5 1 gallon jugs were used to fill the sink. The sink has a capacity of about 5 gallons. Can you use more than one unit of measurement to find the capacity of something? Yes, you can use smaller or larger units. If you use smaller units, it will take more time to fill the sink, but your estimate of capacity will be more accurate. If you use larger units, you will fill the sink in less time, but your estimate of capacity will be less accurate.
Good.
You have learned how to use customary units for measuring capacity. Try to identify several everyday items that contain different capacities.
Perfect. So we are going to move on to our quiz. Maybe. Hang on. Feels right like we're at school if I'm clicking the wrong buttons over here. Let me try and make this as big as possible for y'all. Okay. So, which is the most reasonable unit to measure the capacity of a bathtub? Now, remember, when we're looking for a unit that is reasonable, that means the unit that is going to get us to our answer as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. So, would we take 1 cup and fill our bathtub with water to see if that what the capacity was? Would we use a quart container? Now for quarts, I want for you guys to visualize a carton, like I know I drink almond milk, and my almond milk comes in a cardboard carton. It's smaller than a gallon, so that's what I want you guys to imagine for a quart of something. Also the smaller, skinnier bottles of milk are quarts. And then the gallon is the really large, big jug that has the handle on it. And then a pint, I want you guys to visualize like an individual ice cream. So like Ben and Jerry's or one of those little Haagen-Dazs ice creams that you can get at ShopRite. So that's what I want you guys to visualize for pints. So if we're trying to fill a bathtub, which one of these units do you think would get us to that capacity the fastest? If you're going with gallon, then you are absolutely correct. The next one says, which is the most appropriate unit to measure the capacity of a mug? So this one is where it gets kind of tricky because I know right away I think of a mug as a cup. I might even call a mug a cup sometimes. But that does not mean that we should measure its capacity with cups. Remember, we want to know what the capacity, that space that's within that cup, is measured in. So we would want to use a unit that is even smaller than that mug, smaller than that cup, to get the most appropriate and accurate measurement. So that being said, would we use cups, fluid ounces, quarts, or gallons? Well, right away, I know that these two are way larger than 1 cup or than 1 mug, so it's not going to be that one. I'm stuck between A and B at this time. Again, a cup is going to be probably about the size of a mug, maybe a little bit larger, so the most appropriate unit is going to be fluid ounces, which is our smallest customary unit of capacity. Number 3. Which of the following is not an appropriate unit to measure the capacity of a soup bowl? So if you're at home and you're feeling under the weather and mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, in my case when I was younger, are making you some soup, which one of these would they not use to measure how much soup they were feeding you for lunch? A gallon of soup, a cup of soup, a pint of soup, or fluid ounces of soup? The only one that would be inappropriate, I think you would be really, really full, would be a gallon. Number 4, which of the following are the most appropriate units to measure the capacity of a pitcher of orange juice? Okay, so I want for you guys to visualize a pitcher as one of those it's like a big container that holds liquid, and you would see it at pizzerias sometimes. If you got like soda for the table, it has a handle on it and a little like spout at the mouth where it's easy to pour out and get your ice. So that's what I want you guys to visualize for a pitcher. A lemonade would be served in a pitcher sometimes. Anything along those lines. It's going to have a handle on it and hold liquids. So it's rather large, so that means that you're going to be sharing it with others. It's not a personal thing. A pitcher is something to be shared. So do you think we would measure a pitcher in quarts or gallons, teaspoons, tablespoons, cup or pints, tablespoon or cup? Now, for me, I am this one I'm eliminating because it's way, way too small. This one we're also eliminating because also way too small. I would be stuck between A and C. Now, if I want to think about the most reasonable or logical answer here, it's going to be A. And my reasoning for that is because some pitchers are really, really, really large. Like you can have a multi-gallon pitcher. And if that's the case, if we have a pitcher that is maybe worth 2 gallons in capacity, cups or pints would be way too small of units to measure it. So we're going to go with A for this one. And then the last one says Lake Huron is one of the 5 Great Lakes in North America. Which is the most appropriate unit to measure the capacity of water in the lake? So, y'all, you are tasked with going to one of the largest lakes in America, one of the Great Lakes in North America, and you have to figure out its capacity. Do you want to be standing there on the shore of that with 1 cup as your unit of measurement, 1 gallon, 1 quart, or 1 pint? None of those sound very fun, to be honest with you. But if you had to pick the one that would take you the least amount of trips, it would be the largest unit of measurement, which would be a gallon. All right, so let's see how we did on this one. Drum roll. And we are good. We got 5 out of 5 correct. Okay, so today, just as y'all did yesterday, your page P14-2 is going to be attached. I would like for you guys to finish that up and then send a picture of it back to me. If you have no way of printing it, it's no big deal. Just please fill it out on a piece of paper, lined paper, blank paper, colored paper, doesn't matter to me. Just make sure that all of your problems are numbered clearly so that I can see your work. Also, you guys did a really great job yesterday of really explaining your answers on the writing to explain. I was very impressed with most of you. So make sure that you're really putting in that 4th grade work. I know we're not at school. I know it feels different doing this kind of stuff at home and me not being there, but it's the same thing. I believe in you guys. I'm so proud of you guys. In addition to your workbook page, I want for you guys to go around your house and find something that you can measure with capacity. So remember, capacity is something that holds something else. So a container of any kind. You guys all know, right next to me, I have my hydro flask. For those of you that are trying to visualize, I am using my pink one today. And I would measure its capacity in fluid ounces. This one is actually 40 fluid ounces. So that's my object. I can't wait to see your objects. I miss you guys so much. I'm proud of you every day. Keep up the great work. Bye, guys.